spirit of this revolution is not going away.
This is the Ron Paul Liberty Report with Ron Paul, Daniel McAdams, and Chris Rossini.
We are all ambassadors of the Ron Paul doctrine, and it's so simple. Just tell the truth.
An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any army or any government.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With us today, we have Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Daniel, good to see you.
Happy Tuesday, Dr. Paul. How was your long
That's
weekend?
what I was going to remind you.
Yeah.
This is not Monday.
Not Monday. No, we had a holiday yesterday.
Boy, yeah.
That's pretty wild.
It was getting to be fun.
Yeah, I went in the pool. It was cold.
There you go. Okay, but we had to come back to think about less happy things.
Unfortunately.
It's a plus minus thing. It's sad on what's going on and how terrible the politics of the world is right at this time. But at the same time, the good news is it's not a big problem if you just get a couple people to be honest with themselves and to be serious about peace is better than war. Honesty is better than lying. That's not that difficult to understand, but it always interferes with the prosperity of some individuals who thrive on conditions that we have today. So that's what we have to deal with, but we're not the first ones to deal with this. This has been going on throughout history, but right now it's really messy. And guess what? The Middle East is messy, but it's not our fault because that's a long way off. We didn't do anything over there. But people say that we did mess around. Then the 6,000 or 7,000 miles we traveled back and forth, so it's hundreds of thousands of miles we traveled with planes and ships and submarines and everything to go back and forth to just stir up trouble. So the saddest part I find, Daniel, about all this is if you look honestly at what's going on, we have a closer moral responsibility and a political responsibility to deal with what our own government's doing. And because, we can't pretend that we can declare moral authority over everybody. We would think we're the world's policemen then. And then we end up with problems, sort of the kind of problems that we have today. But I think that this whole thing on Lebanon is festering. And that is something that's been around, and to me, I find it rather sad. There are some good history things about Lebanon, and yet we hear one statement coming from our administration and say, "Hey, that sounds good. They're working on peace, and we're not going to have any new wars, and we're going to stop the old wars, and we're going to get along, and we're going to say good things that tomorrow is a better day, and we're going to have a treaty signed." And it's amazing to me how the markets work. But somebody wrote an article. It's running out of steam about every day looking at what is being said by the administration. Say, "Oh, that's good. Oh, that's bad." And right now, the credibility of even these announcements now has just about disappeared. Yeah. But the credibility of claiming that our foreign policy is decent and that we should pursue it and continue to interfere when there is a problem, no matter where, that we have to be involved militarily in a lot of different places. The one place we want to talk a little bit about today is Lebanon, and the sadness about our participation in that. We say, "Oh, well, that's a fight between Israel and Lebanon. We don't have anything to do with that." We know that's just not true because we're partners, and the weaponry and all, and the money making scheme, the war profiteering, it involves us, and since we are the richest country in the world and the most aggressive in spreading our goodness around the world by force, and they either do it our way or they're in big trouble. They're allowed to be in the receiving end of a lot of bombs and testing of the new weapons. Who knows what they can test? So, Daniel, I'm disturbed by this, and I'm sure you're not elated about it for sure. That we immediately said, when it finally got up to the news about how much bombing was going on, and that's been smoldering for a long time, and we've been involved a long time, but we didn't sort of admit it. But it came out. Our administration endorsed all the violence over there that is, that has evolved with the invasion and destruction of Lebanon.
And over the long weekend, it was the same pattern we always see, where the Trump administration, through leaks, announces that they're close to a deal with Iran. In this case, it was where we have the deal is 95% done. The only thing that remains to be solved is the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and what to do with the nuclear material. That seems like a little more than 5%. But anyway, just when they're announcing this, so what does Israel always do every time being close to a deal is announced? They pummel Lebanon. They take out their frustration on Lebanon, and they're basically turning it into a Gaza. And I have some video later of what happened over the weekend, of what Lebanon is looking like now. And I'll go to that first clip. This is what Dave DeCamp wrote up on antiwar.com. U.S. backs Israel's escalation in Lebanon, which is contradicting what has been said. If we can get that first clip up there, from antiwar.com. Netanyahu announced Israel would intensify its attacks on the country as Iran maintains that a real ceasefire in Lebanon is needed for a deal with the U.S. Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu announced on Monday that he ordered the Israeli military to intensify its attacks on Lebanon. No, are they fighting an army? No, they're blowing up cities, they're blowing up villages, they're blowing up children, just as they did in Gaza. Netanyahu said, "I've ordered an even greater acceleration of our operations. It's true they are attacking us with drones, including fiber optic drones, but we have teams working on countermeasures." So the whole thing, if you think about it, Dr. Paul, where are Israelis being attacked? They're being attacked inside Lebanon, right? So by definition, it's a defensive war on the part of Hezbollah, whoever is fighting them. They have invaded another country. And then when that other country fights back, they say, "This is outrageous. We're going to kill even more of you." And that's what we're seeing in Lebanon.
Is there any chance that they play a good cop, bad cop routine? Because we hear the good promotions. Well, we're going to have an agreement and a ceasefire. It'll take a week or so. That's where it started now. I think it's been a month or so already. And this is the way the other thing started. I remember so well the minor little incident in the Gulf of Tonkin.
Yeah.
Went on for 10 years, and millions of lives killed. So but I think our side tends to say, well, we're for peace. We're the peacemakers. We want to go over there and get to the bad guys, and the people who are more aggressive, because it's always in defense, is Israel. They have to defend themselves, and you've made the point already. Well, why is all the war going on in an invasion of Lebanon? It makes no sense whatsoever. But and then they'll always turn that into defense. That's a whole thing, and we'll talk about that in a bit. That everything is defensive, and it's nothing more than lies on all this stuff that they say, well, we have to defend ourselves. And some people are just, cheering on one side, and they say they want to hear that, and they want to believe it, and to the point where they actually do believe it. and many of them get converted and say, well, this is the right thing to do because we've been told, these are very bad people, so we have to make that exception to this. And one of the silly things on this debate that goes on, I can't imagine. Several years ago, when we were involved, way long ago with Iran, and we confiscated and froze up a lot of money.
Yeah.
And when I think Biden returned some of it, and he was castigated for returning stolen goods.
Their own money, yeah.
So, and that's the way it is now. There's still a lot of money held in there, and the people now have the audacity to say that we have to we can't negotiate with you, the Iranians. Why don't you give us our money back that you stole?
Yeah.
But they won't even recognize that at all. So it is, I think the level of debate and the seriousness of the debate, every day it gets less credible.
Yeah.
And that was a predictable, outcome, just because of the way these things go.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that Israel is so audacious in the way they attack other countries that it's almost become normalized. You see them, and I have a video later of them, they wire every house in a village and then they blow them all up at the same time. And people just accept that. It's terrible that it normalizes a kind of behavior that if any other country on earth did it, people would be outraged. If Russia was blowing up Ukrainian villages like this and killing all the people in the village, you can imagine the outrage that we would have, So it's just normalizing this. Now go to this next clip. After a Lebanon ceasefire was announced last month, President Trump declared that Israel was prohibited from further strikes on the country, but the Israeli attacks continued. Trump prohibits Israel from attacking Lebanon, and Israel says, we don't care. We're doing it anyway. Now go to the next one. Here is Trump's Truth Social post at the time. This was back on April 17th. This is what Trump said. The USA will get all the nuclear dust created by our great B-2 bombers. No money will exchange hands in any way, shape, or form. The deal is in no way subject to Lebanon either, but the USA will separately work with Lebanon and deal with the Hezbollah situation in an appropriate manner. Now here's the important point. Israel will not be bombing Lebanon any longer. They are prohibited from doing so by the USA. Enough is enough. Thank you, President DJT. Now, Netanyahu must have looked at this and laughed his rear end off.
It's some of that. If you took this and you could say, well, this is a good statement, I mean, it'd be foolish for you to believe that they're being honest with us.
Yeah.
They're just making talk. It's just a talk back and forth, and it has an effect because people just get worn out back and forth, and nobody marched into New York. Oh yeah, they snuck into New York in a few places, but it's something that people just put up with this, and I can understand why the average person would feel helpless on this, and they think that it's only a military fight, and it is. The military stuff is a consequence of these tyrannical ideas, and the ideology is that is pervasive, and the ideas about that people have written for 100 years about our responsibility to be the peacemakers and and take care of. So people, I can understand this, but the self-reliance and the ideas of a republic and all, I believe the American people are starving for that message. I believe they understand it when they hear it, but I think they have to be distracted, and they have been distracted constantly, and they've been doing that for many decades.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have a couple of clips here. Now, if you just go to that next one, not the video, but just the next one. This is Che Bose. He is an Irish journalist operating right now in Lebanon. This happened this morning, Dr. Paul. The IDF has begun ground operations in Lebanon beyond the Yellow Line. Earlier today, they bombed a dam in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley. You can see this bombing a dam. That's going to, A, destroy the water supply, which is what they do. They did that in Gaza for years. And also to flood and kill all the people, of course, who live outside the dam. Now, I have a couple of videos of destruction of Lebanon that's taking place while the world basically doesn't pay any attention at all. Let's just look at a couple of these. I have 3. I'm not sure we're going to watch all of them, but I just queued a couple of the videos up to take a look at so we can see the destruction that's happening in Lebanon right now to civilian areas. If we can queue up those videos. Here's one. Now, here's what Lebanon looks like after Israel's done with it, sections of it. This looks just like Gaza. Let's just watch for a minute of this. Just complete and total destruction of everything. It looks just like Gaza. Total, utter destruction. I'm sure plenty of people are trapped in the rubble. Now let's go ahead and click on that second one. I just want to give a taste of some of the things that I've been looking at here. Let's click on that second one if we can, just for a second. Yeah, now this is how they destroy these villages, Dr. Paul. Look at this. Look at that. They wire each one of these buildings with explosives, and they just blow up the entire village. These are places where people live. People live in these homes, and they're just getting blown up. Cities are being destroyed. Here's another one, a third one. They're doing this over and over and over. Okay, now let's go to the third one here. The third video, if we can, just to give a sense of what's happening in Lebanon. Yeah, now here's bombs. This is one of the most ancient cities in the world, by the way, Tyre. And this is just the middle of downtown. Israel just hits it with a bomb. Let's watch this one. Boom, someone's house. And it goes on and on and on. I mean, this is not normal behavior. But somehow they're getting away with it. And the worst part of it, Dr. Paul, is that they do it with our stolen tax money and with our weapons. That's the real problem, I think.
Of course, that's exactly what I was thinking about and making a comment, but you made it well. But yes, we're paying for it. And I believe that if the American people can put these issues together, they will be opposed to it. Yeah. I think it's getting a little bit better. People woke up a little bit about the expense in Ukraine, but these things still exist. So I think the money issue is a big deal, but the media types, the political meetings, both political parties, they're absolutely dedicated to pursuing this type of a foreign policy. Otherwise, you're a heathen, you're a hypocrite, you're unpatriotic, and you hate the military. But the other way, the people who are trying to change people's mind ought to point out and try to compensate for what they get from the mainstream media is just start with the gasoline price. Yeah. The regulations and the bombing and all of this is not only do we pay for the bombs that we send over there and pay for the policy, because they would not do it without our endorsement. This is not an independent move on one country. It requires our money. And people now, like this morning again, I looked at, where is that? Where is that? In California, where it's over $4? No, it's the average of the whole country, including the countries in Texas where it's a little bit less. Yeah. So people have to put it together. And as long as they endorse a foreign policy like this is going to get worse. And then there's a bigger picture of debt, which is going to have to be reconciled. And people just can't quite comprehend this, but they're going to have to, because it doesn't go away gracefully. Yeah. And I think that is one of the biggest issues, probably the type of debt we have now and the momentum on building up new debt and paying interest is probably, I'd be willing to put a bet on it that this is one of the biggest, debt problem in the world, and that's the reason that we were the wealthiest, and we had a strong currency, and we had a lot of natural resources, and we had a policy that endorsed this and coerced people saying, use the dollar or we'll get you. Yeah. And those attitudes have to change, or this will only get worse. These problems of the militarism. The militarism is a natural consequence to the economic dilemma that we face.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely true. Well, the other thing we want to talk about today is, I mean, it's sort of an insult to the intelligence how language itself is being destroyed. Go to that next clip. CENTCOM confirms self-defense strikes in Iran. I mean, you can't read it with a straight face. The U.S. military carried out, quote, self-defense strikes on Monday in southern Iran against targets, including boats attempting to lay mines. Well, that's what they claim. So if I break into your house and start stealing your stuff and you pull a gun on me, I can shoot you and call it self-defense. I mean, that's basically it. We're in their house stealing their stuff and blowing stuff up, and they say, hang on a minute, and we say self-defense. So U.S. Central Command continues to defend our forces. Where are our forces that they're defending? Oh, they're in Iranian territorial waters. So it's just, Dr. Paul, I mean, it's just insulting to our intelligence to be talked to like this.
I think I can explain all this.
All right.
Don't laugh either.
No, I'm ready.
Yes, I think it is self-defense by a special category of people. They're defending corporatism.
Yeah.
They're defending a system of weapons profits that they make. You know, all of this. It's a whole system of government, and they call that personal. Who knows? We had to change the word because self is misleading.
Yeah.
So, but it is. They're defending themselves by making sure that that they can do this and make money on the deal. And then there's also then that invites the political system of how the money gets distributed, because there will be competition. So you have to throw some crumbs to the poor people who are suffering it, and they never get anything near what is stolen from them, and that they suffer from the policy. So it's a defense of some special interests for sure, but not true self-defense. It hardly, I don't know when the United States had to really defend itself.
Maybe the War of 1812, I guess.
If you try to avoid the conventional definition of a country, people were defending themselves and their liberties in the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So that was a non-conventional war, but it was truly something for their personal benefits, and they weren't looking to be lobbyists in Washington and get some welfare, but they were fighting for. I think their goals were very understandable, and they just wanted to be left alone.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if this, because Iran said this breaks the ceasefire. They haven't responded militarily yet after the U.S. attack on these two ships. We'll see if they do, but I think it's definitely very, very sketchy and very, very shaky right now, the ceasefire. Now, there is the annual pilgrimage to Saudi Arabia, to Mecca, that's taking place this week. And it looks like the U.S. may not, well, they may actually, but it wouldn't be a good idea for them to start attacking Iran during this massive pilgrimage that they have. But it may well take place after. We don't know. We were, of course, on the verge of a deal, 95% done. And then the oil prices went down, and probably some people in the White House made some bets. It made some money, and then it's off. Now, if you go to that very last clip, I'm going to skip that second one just because we're getting close to being done. But all news, it's hard to figure out what's true and what's not. But according to the Iranian chairman of the National Security Committee of Parliament, they say, if we put that last one up, that last clip, until the Americans take the 5 confidence-building measures on board, there's no meaning in the so-called understanding with the U.S. Now, here is the 5 points that Iran is looking for as a prerequisite to move forward, end the war on all fronts, especially Lebanon. The question would be, can Trump put a leash on Netanyahu and tell him to stop blowing up Lebanon? Clearly, he's not able to do so now. He's not exerted any pressure, but that's required. Lifting the U.S. blockade and piracy, transit of civilian ships through the Strait of Hormuz with Iranian arrangements, suspension of oil sanctions for 30 or 60 days, and releasing Iran's frozen funds. So that would be the beginning. And to be honest, none of it really looks that impossible right now. And it doesn't look like Trump would be losing face if he were to do these. As you pointed out, Dr. Paul, this is Iran's own money. The Shah, a lot of it was spent under the Shah when he tried to buy a bunch of weapons, which he did. He was the piggy bank. He was the, as Larry Johnson said on the Judges Show, he was this. They were the Saudi Arabia for Saudi Arabia. With Saudi Arabia, the Shah bought all of our weapons, so they bought a bunch. Then they had a revolution. The U.S. said, "Well, we're not going to give you those weapons you bought because we don't like you guys, and we're not going to give you your money back either." So, to me, that doesn't seem that impossible. But remember when Trump was talking over the weekend about getting closer to a deal, Lindsey Graham freaked out. Ted Cruz freaked out. They attacked him like vicious dogs. He should pay attention to how his friends behave.
You know, there's a mixed bag when it comes to putting an organization together that could work for peace. But I have to admit that I'm sympathetic. I wished it would work to some degree because it's a lot better than what we're doing. And I'm talking about the Abraham Accords. And that's one thing where you would have to say our position, our government is sort of schizophrenic on it. You know, they helped encourage to have it and just get together and, work toward peaceful answers. But it's just a weapon, a political weapon to use because these other problems like the money issue and when are they going to stop the bombing and it's things that, Daniel, I think you could trace these things back even just 10, 20, 30 years, because I think a lot of this, the principle of the outsiders coming in and redrawing lines was World War I.
Yeah.
And that left it. But even though there was a period of time where it wasn't quite as bad as it is now, but when it's artificial and it's done artificially, lines drawn. Yeah, I sort of like the long-term history for reasons in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
They had like 50 tribes separately. They're living alone and they get along together and they've and nobody invades them. Everybody invades them, but nobody beats them. So, but they wanted their independence. They just leave us live in our homes, and somebody's looking for. They may have minerals there. There may be gold there. There may be oil there, and that's back to the corporatism that exists in all of the. There's this corporatism and capitalism, state capitalism that exists in all kinds of governments, and that's connecting the voluntarism of a free market and accepting that versus the government doing that, trying to bring people together, because that hasn't worked. It's not working right now, and people should give serious consideration, to the whole idea of voluntarism. And also, there's another little law rule. This is a rule. We don't write laws like this, but you should seek after truth. Everybody should. That would be a moral imperative, as well as saying that the system can't work or unless you follow one other rule: no lying, no cheating, no stealing, and no killing. Wow, that would be some society. And how long has that been known? About 3,000 or 4,000 of when they first had printing and books and writing and history, because that was a natural thing that came to people. Those basic principles of no lying, cheating, stealing, or killing was necessary for people to live in peace. Daniel?
Well, Thanks, Dr. Paul. I'll let our audience in on a little secret. When we finish the show every day, we talk about the live audience. We talk about how many there were. We talk about some of the comments that we read during the show. So don't think that we're not watching you, watching us, and don't think that we don't appreciate it. And we're very happy today. We have a very good live audience on both X and YouTube, and we're very happy about that. It makes our day, right? Because we work hard trying to put together something for all of you that might be valuable and helpful to you, some kind of a different perspective on things. And when you respond like this, it makes us feel very happy, and it gives us more energy to do more. So I want to thank everyone for watching the show and hope to see you again tomorrow. Over to you, Dr. Paul.
Very good. And I, too, want to thank our viewing audience for joining us today. Please come back soon.
Thanks for watching the Ron Paul Liberty Report. Like and subscribe to help spread the message. And until next time, live free.
This country is